It's the 17th of February 2025. This is a brand new edition of Newsfirst's Primetime News, coming to you live and direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. Bringing you the news tonight for the Newsfirst team, I am Jaimal Ratnayaka.
And I am Hashni Patrana. First up is a look at your headlines for tonight.
President Anura's inaugural budget presented to Parliament. More relief for the public. Reduced benefits for ministers. Encouraging proper tax payment. President's directive to auditors and tax advisors. President also issues warning to public officials. Is MP Dr. Harsha De Silva upset?
මේ රටේ මුදල් ඇමතිවරයා හැටියට කියන දේ කරන අයවැයක් ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන අවස්ථාවක අහම තමයි ඒ කලකිරීමක් තියෙනවා ඒක නැති වෙන්නේ.
Request to halt Bar Association elections rejected by Colombo District Court. Price of wheat flour to decrease by 10 rupees from tomorrow.
On to our top story this evening, President Anura Dissanayake announced in Parliament today that no new taxes will be imposed and that the highest allocations in the budget have been dedicated to the education and health sectors.
The President also mentioned the introduction of a national export development plan for the period between 2025 and 2029. According to the budget, senior citizens will be allowed to file their income tax returns manually starting from the year of assessment 2024-2025.
President Anura Dissanayake presented the 79th budget of independent Sri Lanka at 10:30 a.m. in the Parliament chamber. This year's budget offers relief across various sectors and targets a 5% interim economic growth rate. What relief measures have been provided for public and private sector salaries in this budget? The minimum salary for public sector employees, previously 24,250 rupees, has been increased to 40,000 rupees. Consequently, the minimum basic salary in the public sector will rise by 15,750 rupees. The current ad hoc interim allowance and special allowance will be integrated into the basic salary, giving a net increase of 8,250 rupees in the minimum salary. Of the total net salary increase, 5,000 rupees and 30% of the balance amount will be paid starting from April 2025, with the remaining 70% being paid in equal portions beginning in January 2026 and January 2027.
Some teacher grades currently receive a salary of 38,000 rupees, which will be increased to 61,000 rupees. I believe the salaries of the ministry secretaries will be increased by 80,000 rupees to 90,000 rupees. The proposed minimum monthly basic salary increase of 15,750 rupees will also be applicable to judicial services, public corporations, statutory boards and university staff, and officers of tri-forces, on the same basis in line with the minimum basic salary increase for public sector employees. The total estimated cost of this salary increase is expected to be 325 billion rupees. Considering present fiscal constraints, it is proposed that this salary increase be implemented in phases.
What happens to the public sector pensions?
We will align the pensions of all those who retired before the 1st of January 2020 to the 1st of January 2020 salary scale. For instance, if someone retired in 1996, their pension will be adjusted to the January 2020 salary scale. This adjustment will be implemented in 3 phases. For this phase, we expect to allocate 10,000 million rupees in 2025. In 2026, pensions will be aligned with the 2019 salary scale, and in 2027, they will be aligned with the 2020 salary scale. By 2027, all retirees who retired before 2020 will be on the same salary level. This will significantly change the pension amounts and minimize the disparities among retirees.
The President also commented on the wages of the private sector and plantation workers.
The Employees Association have already agreed to increase the monthly minimum wage to the private sector workers from 21,000 rupees to 27,000 rupees in April 2025 and to 30,000 rupees from 2026. The government will intervene to increase the daily wages of workers from 1,700 rupees. That needs to be given. Currently, it is 1,350 rupees.
The government plans to implement a strategic recruitment plan to hire 30,000 individuals in essential public service roles, with an allocation of 10,000 million rupees for this purpose in 2025. A committee under the Prime Minister has been appointed to review the functions and utility of a plethora of government agencies. A decision has been made not to issue vehicle permits to all members of Parliament this year as part of managing state expenditure.
Public resources such as mansions allocated for the President, Prime Minister and Ministers have been redirected to effective public use. A committee is appointed to recommend the best use of such properties in economically viable projects and the public interest. An official residence set aside for a minister has already been allocated for the Anti-Corruption Office due to the lack of space. That is the need of the public. Do we need the Minister or the Anti-Corruption Office? We will prioritize the requirements. All luxury vehicles that require heavy running and maintenance expenses will be auctioned. The delay was due to the waiting of the Gazette notification for the new vehicles. Someone asked why they weren't being sold. Once the Gazette for importing new vehicles is issued, there will be a change in market prices. The expectation was to sell them after that. This is the proper way to understand and handle the situation. Therefore, the government has decided to minimize the high costs associated with vehicles by providing appropriate financial provisions to selected officials. Members of Parliament will not receive permits or vehicles this year. No funds have been allocated for this purpose in the budget. Harsha, I can't give you what you're asking for. How can I provide the leadership of the Colombo district? I can't give those things. That's something you must ask from the opposition leader.
120 million rupees allocated for women's empowerment. 7,500 million rupees allocated to provide assistance to pregnant mothers. 5,000 million rupees for the 3 Posha program to improve nutrition for mothers and children. 604 billion rupees allocated to the health sector. 185 billion rupees allocated for the purchase of medicines and equipment. Steps taken to enhance national capacity for pandemic prevention. Steps taken to digitalization of the National Medicines Regulatory Authority and the State Pharmaceuticals Corporation. 200 million rupees for a treatment center for children with autism and neurological disorders. 80 million rupees for early childhood development centers. More than 1,000 million rupees allocated for school infrastructure. 135 million rupees allocated for the university system. Increase in allowances for preschool teachers by 1,000 rupees starting in July. Increase in scholarships for children from low-income families from 750 rupees to 1,500 rupees. Increase in Mahapula scholarships from 5,000 rupees to 7,500 rupees starting in April. 200 million rupees allocated for scholarships for students with outstanding A-level results to pursue degrees at foreign universities. 500 million rupees for the development of sports schools. 500 million rupees to introduce new tourist destinations. Concessionary seasonal food package from Lanka, Sirasa.
අලුත් අවුරුදු සමයේදී ලංකා සතොත්ස සමාගම හරහා සහල් තිම්මාලු පරිප්පු ලූණු.
It proposed to provide a dry food ration including rice, canned fish, dal, onions, potatoes and dried fish at a concessionary rate through Lanka Satosa Limited. During the upcoming New Year season, we propose to allocate 1,000 million rupees to finance these rations. We propose to implement a special interest scheme for senior citizens. Under this scheme, individuals above 60 years of age will be eligible for 1-year fixed deposits of up to 1 million rupees with an annual additional interest rate of 3%, above the prevailing interest rates in the market for ensuring their financial stability.
පවතින පොලි අනුපාතවලට වඩා 3% වාර්ෂික පොලි අනුපාතයක් ලබා දීමට අපි කටයුතු කරනවා.
35,000 million rupees allocated for fertilizer subsidy. 5,000 million rupees allocated for Maha season paddy purchasing.
රුපියල් බිලියන 5ක විහිවිලදී ගත්තාම අවශ්‍ය නම්
When purchasing rice worth 5 billion rupees, if necessary, this stock can be held as a reserve and used to secure additional loan funds at bank interest rates. The government plans to amend the Paddy Marketing Act number 14 of 1971 to address contemporary challenges in the paddy and rice market. The total public sector investment for irrigation sector development for 2025 is estimated at 78,000 million rupees. This ensures that when the rice harvest comes in, it cannot be monopolized by any businessman. It is a national asset. Therefore, as I previously mentioned, it is essential to maintain a reserve stock and protect it through an amendment to the Paddy Marketing Board Act.
Identifying underutilized lands for small and medium investors with 250 million rupees allocated for preliminary activities, 2,000 million rupees for the development of ancient irrigation systems in Galloya, Rajanganaya, Minerio and Huruveva, 500 million rupees allocated to encourage youth participation in agriculture, 2,500 million rupees allocated for the development of the dairy industry, steps to cultivate 16,000 acres in the northern Coconut Triangle, with 500 million rupees allocated for this initiative, 200 million rupees allocated for the development of the inland fisheries industry, 232.5 billion rupees allocated for the Social Security Fund.
අස්සසම වැඩසටහනට ඇතුළත් නොවූ ඒත් සුදුසුකම් ලත් අයට යෝජනා ක්‍රමයට ඇතුළත් වීමට තවත් අවස්ථා ලබා දෙමින් 2025
For those eligible for Swasuma to enter the scheme yet not included, it is expected to finish enumeration in May 2025, providing another opportunity for them to enter the program. We propose to increase the monthly allowances for kidney patients and people with disabilities from 7,500 rupees to 10,000 rupees and a monthly allowance for elderly persons from 3,000 rupees to 5,000 rupees with effect from April 2025. Around 25,000 families have been selected to be empowered under the pilot program. We propose to enhance the empowerment program by 500 million rupees.
නියම ව්‍යාපෘතියකට තෝරාගෙන තිබෙනවා. සවිබල ගැනීමේ වැඩසටහන සඳහා වෙන්ක්‍රීම් රුපියල් මිලියන 5000කින් වැඩි රුපියල් මිලියන 500කින් වැඩි කිරීමට අප යෝජනා කරනවා.
Proposal made for a development bank for entrepreneurship.
පළමු පියවර ලෙස
Initially, the history of many development banks, including Lanka Putra Bank, has not been very favorable. For instance, loans were given against temple lands, which were later mortgaged in Viraketia. Therefore, we have held discussions with state banks, and they have responded positively. They have expressed their commitment to this development loan scheme. The government is continuously striving to manage state expenditure and streamline public spending.
This year's budget does not introduce any new taxes. A decision has been made not to implement the imputed rental income tax agreed upon with the International Monetary Fund. Plans are in place to gradually transition towards a cashless economy.
බදු පැනවීම් සියල්ල අපි ජනවාරි මාසයේ
All taxes were introduced to the Parliament in January. The tax policy measures outlined here are expected to deliver the required revenue to enable Sri Lanka to meet the revenue targets of 15.1% of GDP in 2025. We believe that the Customs Department, Inland Revenue Department and Excise Department will achieve this goal by improving their efficiency and demonstrating reductions in revenue leakages. Even with a revenue target of less than 0.1%, we expect these salary increases to be justified by their enhanced performance. We will provide the necessary support to these officials, but we also ask them to fulfill their duties properly for the benefit of the country. In fact, Sri Lanka's revenue strategy for the upcoming budget aims to enhance fiscal stability by strengthening tax administration, improving compliance, improve institutional strength through enhanced digitalization and rigorous monitoring mechanisms. Sri Lanka is moving towards a cashless economy as part of its broader digitalization agenda to formalize the economy and improve revenue collection. Digitalization of revenue agencies and the overall digital economy drive is expected to provide significant impetus to the revenue enhancing efforts. However, it is not just the tax collection authorities that have the responsibility in this regard. Several other stakeholders, including audit firms and tax accountants, have a responsibility to discharge their duties in a socially responsible manner such that the government is not deprived of due tax. Otherwise, we know that some auditors and tax consultants often provide advice that leads to the loss of tax revenue for the government. We urge them to recognize their social responsibility and ensure that their clients' taxes are properly paid to the government. Appropriate measures will be taken to ensure compliance with the regulatory and legal framework in this regard as well.
The compensation for lives lost in disasters has been increased to 1 million rupees. 500 million rupees allocated for initiatives aimed at creating a drug-free society. 500 million rupees allocated for the renovation of old railway carriages. 3,000 million rupees allocated for the development of rural roads. Metro bus company to be established. 100 modern buses to be introduced from Moratuwa, Kottava, Kadavata and Wattala to Colombo. Unified timetable for private and SLTV buses. 20 billion rupees allocated for the repayment of Sri Lankan Airlines debt and interest. Decision made not to provide treasury funds for daily operations. 5 billion rupees allocated for the development of rural roads and bridges in the northern province. 1 billion rupees allocated for the construction of the Mullaitivu Vaduwakal Bridge. Special development initiatives for the eastern province. 100 million rupees allocated for providing computers and other equipment to the Jaffna Library and 200 million rupees for the development of other libraries.
In both Sri Lankan and world history, libraries have been burned during times of conflict. The trauma still lingers in the hearts of those affected. The Jaffna Library was burned during the 1981 Development Council meeting. Therefore, we propose to allocate 100 million rupees in this budget to provide essential facilities including computers to this library. Additionally, we propose to allocate 200 million rupees for the development of libraries in other regions.
5 billion rupees allocated for the Clean Sri Lanka program. 750 million rupees for waste management facilities. 640 million rupees to mitigate the human-elephant conflict. A new housing complex for artists and journalists. Establishment of a national festival to celebrate Sri Lankan Day with an allocation of 300 million rupees. Steps to introduce a new customs ordinance.
යෝජිත කොළඹ බටහිර දෙක පර්යන්තේ සහ කොළඹ උතුරු වරාය ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ වරායවල ක්‍රියාකාරීත්වය වේගවත් කරන
The proposed Colombo West Terminal 2 and Colombo North Port is expected to expedite the performance of Sri Lanka's ports. Therefore, we will call for expression of interest for these projects within a month. This needs to be expedited quickly. We propose to allocate 1 billion rupees to support the initial development and establishment of advanced scanning systems for the port of Colombo and Bandaranaike International Airport. Discussions on these projects have been ongoing since 2012, but we have yet to make progress. Therefore, we aim to complete the Digital ID project swiftly as it forms the foundation of digitalization. Steps have already been initiated and we expect to accelerate this process. We plan to establish a digital economy, authority to ensure the security of digital service platforms. The accelerated adoption of digital payments flowing between government, businesses and citizens will be a key accelerator of the digital economy. The recently launched GovPay system is an example of one such digital payment channel. It is necessary to gradually shift away from a cash-based economy. It would be implemented in a carefully phased process with clear communication. Our aim is to grow Sri Lanka's digital economy to a level in excess of $15 billion or 12% of the national economy over the next 5 years.
Steps will be taken to amend the Electricity Act.
I recently heard concerns about some projects leaving the country. However, should there be such concerns? For instance, a Sri Lankan company is building a project in Mannar at $0.0465 per unit, while a foreign company proposed $0.0826 per unit for the same project. We must remember that the company bringing the investment is not the focus. We are not dependent on any particular country or company. Our actions are always based on what benefits our electricity consumers and industries. We do not consider the country or the company. We focus on what is best for our people. If someone is still complaining, I cannot understand who that MP is.
Steps taken on expanding the network of free trade agreements, broadening market regulation through regulatory institutions, introducing a national export development plan, steps to amend the Economic Transformation Act, introducing an Emerging Investment Economic Transformation Act, enacting legislation to provide all services to investors from a single location, introducing a new Public-Private Partnership Act.
I tell every investor I meet that intermediaries are unnecessary. Your representative is the Board of Investment. Why do you need additional representatives? Why intermediaries? No public servant or appointed official in this government will seek bribes or favors in return for doing their job. If such an incident occurs, they will not receive any protection from us, and we will take all independent legal action against them. Do not give bribes. That's all. But those who take bribes should be afraid. Our judiciary has never been as free or independent as it is now. Our police force has never been as powerful and independent as it is now. I can tell you that the current IGP has imposed the highest number of punishments within the police department.
The expected government revenue for 2025 is 4,990 billion rupees. The estimated expenditure is 7,190 billion rupees. Accordingly, the budget deficit is 2,200 billion rupees.
අපිට සංගවන්න කිසි දෙයක් නැහැ. මේ සියලු දෙනා මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට ආගන්තුක බව ඇත්ත. හැබැයි ආගන්තුක වුවත් ඔවුන් සතු ඇත්තේ විශාල අත්දැකීම් සහ ප්‍රායෝගික දැනුම් බව සිහිපත් කළ යුතුයි. මෙම අයවැය ප්‍රකාශනයෙන් බිහිවුවේ තමන්ගේ වෘත්තීය ජීවිතය තුළ කීර්තිමත් වූ දේශ.
We have nothing to hide. All these individuals are new to this parliament. However, despite being new, they possess vast experience and practical knowledge. This budget statement was crafted with the confidence and courage of patriotic professionals who have excelled in their careers. They believe that for the first time in history, they can contribute to a clean, effective and heartfelt governance. We must appeal to Sri Lankans living abroad. You may have been born in Sri Lanka and now live as expatriates. However, we believe you have roots in Sri Lanka. You may have only heard about your motherland from your parents. We believe you are all Sri Lankans. We are proud of your success. We understand why you may have lost faith in our motherland. We are grateful for every effort you make to contribute your expertise, skills and perspectives to our beautiful island. We invite you to return and see how much Sri Lanka has changed. We assure you that our people will never again be divided against each other. I believe our people will not be misled by those who try to incite them against each other for political or personal gain. We believe that our people no longer believe in ethnic conflict.
ජනතාව එකිනෙකට එරෙහිව පොළඹවා ගැනීමට උත්සාහ කරන්නගෙන් මුලා නොවන බවට මට විශ්වාසයක් තිබෙනවා. යලි ජාතිවාදය ගැටුම මේ රටේ ජනතාව විශ්වාස නොකරයි කියලා අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා.
After President Anukumara Dissanayaka's budget speech, Dr. Harsha De Silva was approached by journalists outside the chamber regarding the mention of his name in the president's speech.
If the country has been ruined for 75 years, then it must be the fault of the previous administrations. I'm not saying I'm wrong, but this should have been understood decades ago. They opposed the creation of a holding company for state-owned enterprises. Now, if they agree to fuel price equalization and electricity tariff equalization, why did they oppose it all this time? What were they fighting for? Sunil is listening until I finish. What were they fighting for, Sunil? If this had been addressed earlier, we wouldn't be facing this issue now. The country would have progressed successfully. For a long time, we have seen budgets either implementing policies from other countries, international financial institutions or multinational corporations. Today, for the first time, we have presented a budget that implements the aspirations of the people. This is the first time in history that a budget has been planned with consideration for street children, prisoners and even children in detention centers. This budget truly provides relief to social segments that have never been addressed before. Additionally, the funds allocated to ministries and sectors are not for unnecessary expenses. The government has significantly reduced its expenditure. However, the allocated funds are intended to be used efficiently for those in need. Our party has several key positions. Dr. Harsha De Silva is our party's treasurer and also chairs the finance committee. In the Colombo district, we have 4 elected MPs. We plan to work work correctly with the 15 seats we have. I think President Anurukumara Dissanayake should focus on what he said and what he is doing now, rather than wasting time on our party's responsibilities.
අපේ පක්ෂයේ වගකීම් පිළිබඳව කාලේ විලංගු කරනව වෙනුවට එතුමා පොඩ්ඩක් බලන්න ඕනේ එදා කියපු දේ සහ කරන දේ. එතුමාට කලකිරීමක් තියෙනවා නම් ඒ කලකිරීම අවසන් වන්නේ එතුමා වැනි උගත් ප්‍රශස්ත පුද්ගලයෙක් මේ රටේ මුදල් ඇමතිවරයා හැටියට කියන දේ කරන අයවැයක් ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන අවස්ථාවක ආවම තමයි මේ කලකිරීමක් තියෙනවා නම් ඒක නැති වෙන්නේ.
Following the budget presentation, the traditional tea party was held at the Parliament complex. President Anurukumara Dissanayake also attended the event. Ministers and members of parliament from both the government and the opposition and special invitees participated in the tea party.
Still in news from Parliament, the Local Authorities Elections Special Provisions Bill was passed by a special majority without amendments today. During the vote on the third reading of the bill, 158 votes were cast in favour, while no votes were cast against it. Last Friday, the Supreme Court determined that two provisions of the Local Authorities Elections Special Provisions Bill required a special majority to be passed in Parliament. The Supreme Court concluded that clauses 2 and 3 of the bill are inconsistent with Article 12(1) of the Constitution and therefore must be passed by a special majority vote in accordance with Article 84(2) of the Constitution.
I am pleased to announce that we reached an agreement regarding the nominations at the party leaders' meeting, where we have finalized that current nominations will be made invalid and fresh ones will be issued. As the Samagi Jana Balavegaya, we moved court previously requesting that the election be held on the scheduled date as quickly as possible. However, that government did not act upon it. Today, with the introduction of a new law, the process to hold the election has now been initiated. We are offering our support to ensure the election proceeds smoothly. The issue here is, Honourable Speaker, is that the cash bonds of all 80,000 candidates are now with the Treasury. We are requesting that this money be returned to the nominations for the next election. In our party, the funds allocated to parliamentarians do not go to the party's fund. Currently, around 50 million rupees are channeled per month, which is available for you to deposit. If Palavatta is going to bear the cost, we have no issues. We will have to obtain a loan from them. Now, we ask from the government and the Election Commission, are we going to be trapped in Parliament while the election is being conducted? We all need a level playing field. We are not suggesting that the election be delayed for months. There are ordinary level exams and the Sinhala and Tamil New Year is approaching, which generally includes about 10 days of public holidays for the entire country. Additionally, I saw today during the President's budget speech that they are planning to allocate 1,000 million rupees to reduce prices of goods in anticipation of the new year. Announcing its determination, the court ordered for the election to be held as soon as possible. As the court order suggests, we cannot postpone the election. If at all, we should have it quite soon. Two court orders have determined that the election must be held. If a party's general secretary has failed to evaluate the number of days for an election, we can only question his role as the secretary. I am not challenging your position. Calm down. We prefer you being in that position. You mentioned cash bonds. The Election Commission published expenditure details of the presidential election. Which presidential candidate had spent the most money? The opposition leader who lost had spent around 900 million rupees. How did you have ample funds then? It brings us joy to know that a party filled with countless affluent names is now coming to us in Palavatta asking for money. Get in line. We will give you funds.
ආදර්ශයක් දුන්නයි කියලා කිව්වා පක්ෂ විදියට. පක්ෂේ മന്ത്രിවරුන්ගේ පඩිය එක account එකට යනවද?
Their salaries are deposited to their respective accounts. They themselves grant it to the party. If you are unable to follow a similar process, we cannot help it.
Which nomination paper is to be cancelled?
You will be remembered as the first former minister who opposed his own report. Leader of the House, I presented an independent report. When the Good Governance government was in power, 5 JVP MPs voted in favour of postponing the election. I believe many are unaware of it. You too have committed the sin of delaying elections. The same government delayed provincial council elections. But, Deputy Speaker, on the other hand, around 450,000 students are sitting for the ordinary level exam. While the election is ongoing, certain disruptions may occur to the academic activities of those children.
නාමල් රාජපක්ෂ මෙතන උඩ පැන පැන කෑ ගැහුවා මොනවද මේ යම් යම් බලපෑම් ඇති වෙනවා වගේ දෙයක් කියලා.
Namal Rajapaksa was harping on the fact that the election would disrupt certain activities. We know his past. They cheered when Ranil Wickremesinghe claimed that there were no funds to hold an election and there was no election to be held. It was reminiscent of the Vijay and Ajay movie. Now they are shedding crocodile tears, questioning why we are hesitant to hold the election. These groups influence the Supreme Court to no end. I will enter this document to the Hansard. Its content bears information of the party leaders' meeting on the 25th of November. This is the final decision made by leaders of all political parties. Recently, you said our party lost all cooperative elections. If that is the case, you will not lose the election. The budget will end on the 21st. The election is scheduled to be held in late April or even May. The Election Commission will determine that. This was something already agreed upon. We have operated from a weaker position than you. We have had 3 or 6 representatives in parliament, but we never pressured governments to delay elections. We may have lost, but we never engaged in what you are doing.
Newsfirst, main sponsor. Tokyo Super, Super.
ACCA Sri Lanka, with Future Lanka Research and Development Foundation, recently launched the country's first AI-powered chatbot to assist with understanding IFRS in the local A-level curriculum. This innovative tool is revolutionizing accounting education, bridging traditional methods with modern technology to make learning more interactive, accessible and efficient. This initiative underscores ACCA's dedication to shaping the future of finance education in Sri Lanka.
Tokyo Super, Super.
Welcome back to the news. A request to issue an injunction to prevent the Bar Association of Sri Lanka's elections scheduled for the 19th was rejected today by Colombo Chief District Judge Sandon Vithana. The request was made by Attorney at Law Emilia Lilante de Silva, a member of the BASL. The petition was filed against 12 individuals, including Attorney at Law Rajiv Amarasuriya and Dr. Sunila Beratna, who are contesting for the position of President of Bar Association as well as the election officials. Representing the petitioner, President's Counsel Upul Jayasuriya argued that holding the election with only the remaining 2 candidates following the withdrawal of President's Counsel Anura Maddegoda would be against the association's constitution. He compared the withdrawal of a candidate to the death of a candidate, stating that fresh nominations should be called in such cases. President's Counsel Jayasuriya requested the court to order fresh nominations. Representing the respondents, President's Counsels Ali Sabri, Ikram Mohammed, Salia Peris and attorneys at law Tishya Veragoda and Gunaratna Vandinayaka argued that the election was being conducted in accordance with the law. They emphasized that Anura Maddegoda had voluntarily withdrawn from the race, which cannot be equated to a candidate's death. After considering the arguments from both sides, the judge stated that the petitioner had not presented a case likely to succeed. The judge noted that Maddegoda's withdrawal had been publicly announced on his social media 9 days prior, and the petition was delayed by 9 days. The judge rejected the petition and scheduled the next hearing for the 3rd of March.
we must all work towards the rule of law, following the constitution, and that is what the Solicitor General has done, rightly done. And this election must go on, and it will be held on Wednesday, 19th of February.
Jamuni Kamanta Tushar, chairman of the Citizens Movement Against Fraud, Corruption and Waste, provided a statement to the CID regarding a complaint filed against MP Namal Rajapaksa's legal qualifications.
නාමල් රාජපක්ෂ මන්ත්‍රීවරයාගේ ප්‍රශ්නගත නීති උපාධියට ආందోලනාත්මකව මේක කවුද ලියලි ඉවරලා හොරට ගත්ත උපාධියක් කියලා ප්‍රකාශ කර පිටරට ඉන්න තුෂාර කියන මහත්තයෙක් කියන
There are serious allegations surrounding MP Namal Rajapaksa's law degree. It is claimed that he fraudulently obtained his degree with the help of another individual who wrote the exams for him. This raises significant concerns about the integrity of our legal system. Therefore, we have filed a complaint with the CID to initiate an investigation. Based on this complaint, I was summoned today to provide a statement. We urge the CID to summon the individual abroad who witnessed this fraud and, if proven true, to take necessary legal actions to revoke the degree.
කියන එම පුද්ගලයා වහම ලංකාවට කැඳවලා ඔහුගෙන් S2කට දැක්ක සාක්ෂි තියෙනවා නම් වංචනිකව නාමල් රාජපක්ෂ මහත්තයා මේ උපාධිය ලියලා තියෙනවා නම් වහම පරීක්ෂණයක් ආරම්භ කළා ඒකේ සත්‍යතාවයක් තියෙනවා නම් ඒ උපාධිය කැන්සල් කරන්න පුළුවන් විදිහට අවශ්‍ය නීතිමය කටයුතු හදන්නේ කියලා.
News First with the people.
Wheat flour prices are expected to be reduced. Starting tomorrow, the price of wheat flour will be reduced by 10 rupees. This measure is being taken to support the government's initiatives. The relevant companies have informed the Minister of Trade about the price reduction.
The 8th Indian Ocean Conference took place in Muscat, Oman. Speaking at the event, Sri Lanka's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Vijitha Herath, reiterated the country's commitment to regional security, maritime connectivity and sustainable practices.
Developed in partnership with key regional partners, today the Port of Colombo, which is strategically placed in close proximity to the world's busiest shipping routes, is a hub that services and connects the Far East with Europe, Africa, and the eastern coasts of the American continents. Rated as one of the best performing ports in the world today, it is expected to reach greater heights with the state-of-the-art Colombo West International Terminal that is expected to become operational early this year. Our region's prosperity and the world's future prosperity lies in successful partnership of this nature, and Sri Lanka remains committed to strengthening maritime connectivity through port development, logistics, and maritime services, enhancing its position as a key hub in the Indian Ocean. Sri Lanka's vision for the Indian Ocean is one of shared destiny, where nations rise above rivalry to protect freedom of navigation and foster stable and sustainability, prosperity based on cooperation, and find peaceful solutions to all issues. The economic benefits of maritime partnerships within the Indian Ocean region are vast, yet their full potential remains underutilized. From sustainable fisheries and tourism to maritime trade and energy resources, the ocean presents significant opportunities for growth and development. Realizing these benefits demands collaborative efforts to foster sustainable practices, protect maritime ecosystems, and ensure the equitable distribution of resources.
Speaking at the event, Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar emphasized India's role as first responder in the Indian Ocean region and its efforts in plurilateral cooperation.
Our journey to new horizons must necessarily focus on addressing these challenges. So, how is India contributing to these endeavors? Obviously, by rapidly strengthening its own capabilities and forging partnerships with Indian Ocean neighbors, near and far, but also by shouldering responsibilities, stepping up in times of trouble, and providing leadership where required. Stabilizing economies and societies under stress would surely rank among the most important. As the impact of the COVID pandemic and conflict unfolded, India was the source of vaccines, of medicines, of food, fuel, and fertilizer for many others. The biggest commitment it made, of course, was to Sri Lanka, a financial package of about $4 billion to stabilize its economy that had slid into crisis. We have been increasingly active in a first responder mode in the Indian Ocean. This could be the conflict in Yemen, natural disasters in Mozambique, Sri Lanka, or Myanmar, the earthquake in Nepal and Turkey, or a water crisis in the Maldives. Both of Mauritius and Sri Lanka, India has responded to significant oil spills. We are understandably a diverse group of countries in terms of history, geography, development, politics, or culture. But what unites us is a common devotion to the well-being of the Indian Ocean region. In a volatile and uncertain era, we seek stability and security as the baseline. But beyond that, there are ambitions and there are aspirations that we strive to achieve. They will be easier reached when we look out for each other, when we supplement our strengths, and when we coordinate our policies. I can assure you that India will be in the forefront of these endeavors.
A spectacular musical evening, LC Classics 125, was held yesterday to celebrate the 125th anniversary of Ladies College Colombo. The event showcased the remarkable musical talents of old girls from around the globe who returned to their alma mater to contribute to this special occasion.
Ladies College Colombo celebrated its 125th anniversary in spectacular style yesterday with LC Classics 125, a musical extravaganza that brought together talented alumni from around the globe. The event was a poignant tribute to the school's rich history and its enduring commitment to the arts. LC Classics 125 showcased a dazzling array of musical talent featuring numerous renowned Sri Lankan musicians, some of whom have graced international stages. The diverse program spanned genres from classical and semi-classical masterpieces to beloved tunes from popular musicals, offering a rich tapestry of instrumental and vocal performances. The concert not only highlighted the impressive achievements of its alumni, but also celebrated those who continue to nurture their musical passions alongside their chosen careers.
On to news from overseas, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has revealed his country is prepared to send peacekeeping troops to Ukraine if it was needed to ensure the security of Britain and Europe. Starmer said the UK plays a leading role in supporting Kyiv in its war with Russia, including being willing to offer British troops to guarantee the European nation's security.
United Kingdom Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has revealed he was ready to send peacekeeping troops to Ukraine if it was needed to ensure the security of Britain and Europe. It was the first time Starmer had explicitly said he was considering deploying British peacekeepers to Ukraine. He has previously said that Britain was willing to help play a part in any peace deal that is negotiated. The Prime Minister also confirmed he would join a top-level meeting to be held in Paris on Monday to address growing concerns over United States' efforts to end the war in Ukraine. He said that he would be meeting US President Donald Trump in the coming days, adding the UK had a unique role to play in ensuring Europe and the US work closely together. The heads of government of Germany, the UK, Italy, Poland, Spain, the Netherlands and Denmark are all expected at the meeting ahead of the third anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine on the 24th February.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News for tonight.
Thank you for watching. Good
Good
night.
night.